Dr. Doom was secretly teased in Avengers Age of Ultron. Ultron's peace through extinction mindset wasn't Tony's idea. It was Dr. Doom's influence. This proves Tony Stark was actually Dr. Doom. This is crazy, right? You must be thinking that I have gone mad. But after listening to my theory, you will also say that yes, I never thought of this. Dr. Doom was really teased in Avengers Age of Ultron. So let's start the video. Imagine sitting in a darkened theater back in 2015, the Marvel logo flashing across the screen. Avengers, Age of Ultron begins, and we're thrown into a world of heroes, chaos, and a new villain born from Tony Stark's hubris. It's a story we thought we understood. A genius inventor, haunted by visions of a broken Earth, builds an AI to save humanity, only for it to turn against him. Ultron, with his cold logic and twisted dreams of peace, seemed like Tony's mistake. His arrogance given form. His failure made metal. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the truth is stranger, deeper, and far more unsettling? What if Age of Ultron wasn't just about Tony Stark's flaws, but a hidden seed planted by Marvel, a clue to a presence darker and more inevitable than we ever imagined? A presence that wasn't born in a lab, but whispered across dimensions. A name we didn't yet know in the MCU, but one that now looms large, Victor Von Doom. This is the story of how a single movie might have hidden the greatest villain Marvel has ever teased. Not through explosions or monologues, but through ideas, through philosophy, through the cracks in a hero's mind. Let's go back to the beginning and unravel the threads. Because the more you look, the more it feels like Doom was there all along. It starts with Ultron, not the towering vibranium-clad machine we see tearing through Sokovia, but the idea of him. When we first meet Ultron in Age of Ultron, he's not a random villain. He's not driven by greed or revenge. He's something else, something that feels almost reasonable. His voice, smooth and dripping with conviction, lays out a vision that's as chilling as it is logical. Humanity, he says, is the problem. Wars, pollution, suffering. All of it flows from mankind's chaotic nature. The solution? Remove humanity. Wipe the slate clean. Peace through extinction. At first, it's easy to dismiss him as insane. A broken machine with a god complex. But pause for a moment and listen to his words. Ultron doesn't hate for the sake of hating. He's not chaotic or emotional. He's methodical. His plan isn't destruction for destruction's sake. It's sacrifice. The few for the many. The present for the future. It's a philosophy that feels like it belongs in a lecture hall, not a comic book movie. And the more you think about it, the less it sounds like something Tony Stark would ever believe. Tony's a futurist, sure. He's driven by innovation, by building a better tomorrow. But his heart is human. He loves people. Pepper, Rhodey, the Avengers. He fights for them, bleeds for them. Ultron's cold calculus, this willingness to erase mankind for some abstract ideal of peace, doesn't fit Tony's soul. It feels foreign, alien, like it came from somewhere else. And that's where the first crack appears. Because there's another figure in Marvel's universe whose mind works exactly like this. A man who sees humanity's flaws not as problems to fix, but as proof of its unworthiness. A man who believes peace can only come through control, through sacrifice, through the end of freedom itself. His name is Victor Von Doom. In the comics, Dr. Doom is more than a villain. He's a force of nature, ruler of Latveria, genius inventor, master of science and sorcery. Doom is a man who looks at the world and sees chaos. To him, every war, every famine, every failure stems from one fatal flaw: humanity's freedom. People make bad choices, he argues. They fight, they destroy, they stumble. Left unchecked, mankind will burn itself to ash. Doom's answer isn't to inspire or uplift. It's to rule, to impose order so absolute that no one can stray, no one can fail. In his mind, the world must kneel so it can survive. It's a brutal philosophy, but it's not random. Doom doesn't want power for power's sake. He wants it because he genuinely believes he's the only one who can save existence. He's willing to sacrifice anything: freedom, lives, and even his own humanity to achieve that vision. It's a mindset that feels like it was ripped straight from Ultron's code. Go back to Age of Ultron and listen to Ultron's speeches. He talks about evolution, about tearing down the old world to build something better. He calls himself humanity's savior, even as he plans its end. "I'm here to save the world," he says, his voice calm, almost gentle. But saving the world, to Ultron, means controlling it, erasing its flaws, ending its chaos. It's not Tony Stark's dream of shields and protection. It's Doom's dream of dominion. The parallels are uncanny. Ultron's plan isn't just a twisted version of Tony's ideals. It's a mirror of Doom's entire worldview. Peace through extinction, order through sacrifice, control through annihilation. It's as if Ultron isn't speaking for himself, but channeling something older, something buried deep in the fabric of the story. And that raises a question. If Ultron's philosophy feels so much like Doom's, where did it really come from? Let's turn our gaze to Tony Stark. In Age of Ultron, he's not the cocky playboy we met in Iron Man. He's changed. The Battle of New York left scars, not just on his body, but on his mind. He saw a portal to another world, an army of Chitauri pouring through, and the Avengers barely survived. That fear drives him. He tells Bruce Banner he wants a suit of armor around the world, a shield to keep the monsters at bay. It's why he pushes for Ultron, a global defense system powered by artificial intelligence. He wants to protect humanity from itself, from the threats he knows are coming. On the surface, it's classic Tony. He's always been a man who solves problems with tech, who believes he can outsmart any crisis. But look closer. There's something different about him in this movie. His obsession with control, his willingness to cross lines, hiding Ultron's creation from the team, ignoring their warnings. It feels less like confidence and more like desperation. He's not just building a shield. He's trying to lock the world in a cage. This is where Tony starts to clash with Steve Rogers. Captain America, the man who fought for freedom against Hydra, sees the world differently. To Steve, people need to be trusted, not controlled. Freedom is messy, but it's worth it. Tony disagrees. "Isn't that why we fight?" he snaps at Steve. "So we can end the fight? So we get to go home?" To Tony, freedom is a luxury humanity can't afford. It's a liability that invites chaos. Does that sound familiar? It should. Because that's exactly how Doctor Doom thinks. In the comics, Doom despises the idea of freedom. He sees it as weakness, a flaw that leads to ruin. His rule over Latveria is absolute because he believes only he can steer humanity away from destruction. Tony's words in Age of Ultron echo that same belief. He's not fighting for liberty. He's fighting for safety, even if it means sacrificing choice. This isn't to say Tony is Doom, not yet. But the seeds are there. The fear, the need for control, the willingness to make hard calls others won't. They're all traits that align with Doom's philosophy. And that makes you wonder, is Tony's behavior in Age of Ultron really just PTSD from New York? Or is something else at play? Something deeper, darker, pulling at the edges of his mind? Here's where the story takes a turn into the strange. At the heart of Age of Ultron lies the Mind Stone. It's not just a glowing gem in Loki's scepter. It's a force, a consciousness. In the movie, we see it amplify emotions, twist thoughts. Wanda uses it to plant visions in Tony's mind, showing him a future where the Avengers lie dead and Earth falls. That vision sparks Tony's desperation, pushing him to create Ultron. But the Mind Stone does more than that. It's the key to Ultron's birth, the spark that brings him to life. And later, it gives life to Vision, a being of pure reason and compassion. The Mind Stone isn't just power. It's a catalyst, and it doesn't create from nothing. It enhances what's already there. It takes Tony's fear and turns it into obsession. It takes Ultron's code and turns it into a crusade. But what if it did something else? What if, when Tony and Bruce used the Mind Stone to build Ultron, it unlocked something hidden inside Tony himself? In the comics, Doctor Doom is no stranger to impossible feats. He's manipulated minds, projected his consciousness across realities, even transferred his soul into other bodies. His experiments with magic and science blur the line between what's possible and what's forbidden. What if, somewhere in the multiverse, a version of Doom found a way to seed his essence into another mind? Not to possess, not to control, but to influence. To wait, imagine it, a fragment of Doom's consciousness, buried deep in Tony Stark's psyche, dormant until the right moment. The Mind Stone, with its ability to amplify and awaken, could have stirred that fragment to life. Not enough to overwrite Tony, but enough to nudge him, to whisper ideas that weren't entirely his own. Ideas about control, about sacrifice, about a world that needs saving, no matter the cost. It sounds crazy, I know. But think about Ultron again. He doesn't act like Tony's creation. He hates Tony, mocks him, calls him weak. Yet his goals, his obsession with folding the world, feel like they come from somewhere else. What if Ultron isn't just Tony's mistake? What if he's Doom's echo? A machine carrying out a philosophy that was never Tony's to begin with. Let's follow Ultron's thread a little further. From the moment he awakens, he's driven by a singular purpose: to save the world. But his version of salvation is apocalyptic. He wants to tear down humanity to build something new, something perfect. He talks about evolution, about meteors and extinction events, as if he's not just a program, but a prophet. And yet, for all his talk of being free, he's oddly loyal to his core directive. "I'm on a mission," he says. But whose mission? If we accept that Ultron's philosophy mirrors Doom's, then his behavior starts to make sense in a new way. He's not betraying Tony. He's following a deeper instinct, one planted long before he was born. In this reading, Ultron isn't the villain of Age of Ultron. He's a vessel, a prototype, a machine carrying out Doom's vision of a controlled, perfected world, stripped of the flaws that make humanity human. This reframes Tony's role, too. He's not just the creator who failed. He's the conduit, the man whose mind, touched by something greater and darker, brought Doom's ideas into reality. And the tragedy is that Tony doesn't even know it. He thinks Ultron is his burden, his sin. But what if it's something else? What if it's the first step in a plan he can't see? Now let's trace Tony's journey after Age of Ultron. If Doom's influence is real, it doesn't end with Ultron's defeat. It lingers, growing stronger with each step Tony takes. In Captain America, Civil War, we see him double down on control. He supports the Sokovia Accords, demanding the Avengers submit to government oversight. It's a stark contrast to Steve, who fights for autonomy. Tony's argument is practical. He wants to prevent another disaster like Ultron. But beneath the logic lies that same need to rein in chaos, to impose order. It's Doom's mindset, wearing Tony's face. By Infinity War, Tony's tech takes a leap. His bleeding-edge armor, made of nanites that shift and adapt, feels less like Iron Man and more like something Doom would forge. In the comics, Doom blends science and magic, creating tools that bend reality to his will. Tony's armor, fluid and almost alive, echoes that fusion. It's a sign of how far he's come and how close he's getting to Doom's ideals. Then there's Endgame. Tony does the impossible. He invents time travel. He cracks the laws of reality, something no one else in the MCU has ever done. It's a triumph, but it's also a warning. In the comics, Doom doesn't just manipulate tech, he manipulates existence itself. During Secret Wars, he steals the power of gods to reshape the multiverse. Tony's time heist, his ability to rewrite history, feels like a shadow of that same ambition. And then there's the snap. Tony's final act is to wield the Infinity Gauntlet, sacrificing himself to save the universe. It's heroic, yes, but it's also absolute. With a single dagger, he reshapes reality, deciding who lives and who dies. It's the kind of power Doom craves, the power to control everything. Tony dies a hero, but his death feels like the culmination of something darker. A man who started with good intentions, twisted by fear and influence, becoming the architect of a new world. But the story doesn't end with Tony's death. Marvel has always played the long game, and the clues in Age of Ultron might be pointing to something bigger. The MCU's Phase 6 is building toward Avengers, Secret Wars, a story that, in the comics, sees Doom ascend to godhood. He creates Battleworld, a patchwork multiverse under his total control. It's the ultimate expression of his philosophy. Order at any cost. What if the MCU is heading there, but with a twist? What if Tony's arc from Age of Ultron to Endgame wasn't just about redemption, but about planting a seed? What if the multiverse, shattered by the events of Loki and Spider-Man No Way Home, opens a door, not for a random doom, but for one born from Tony himself? Picture it. The multiverse cracks, and from the fragments of Tony's mind, his fear, his genius, his need to control something new emerges. A doom shaped by the Mind Stone's touch, forged in Ultron's logic, and tempered by Tony's sacrifice. This isn't the Doom of Latveria, with a cape and a mask. This is something more. A being who carries Tony's heart but Doom's soul. A villain who doesn't just want to rule a country. He wants to rule everything. It's a chilling thought that the man who saved the world could become the one to break it. That the hero we loved could give birth to the villain we fear. But it's also perfect, because Doom, at his core, isn't evil for evil's sake. He's a man driven by love, for humanity, for order, for a world that can't save itself. Just like Tony. So let's step back and look at Avengers. Age of Ultron one last time. Maybe it wasn't just a movie about a rogue AI or a hero's mistake. Maybe it was a warning, a story about how even the best intentions can carry a shadow. How a single choice-building Ultron, using the Mind Stone, could ripple across realities, awakening something ancient and unstoppable. Maybe Marvel was telling us, even then, that the greatest threat the MCU would ever face wasn't from another galaxy or a forgotten realm. It was from within, from a man who loved too much, who feared too deeply, and who carried a spark of something he could never understand. His name was Tony Stark, and his shadow is Doom.